Welcome to Factorio Masterclass. My name is Nilaus and this is a series of tutorials and guides here on YouTube covering all aspects of the game and aims to provide insights and resources to help you improve as an engineer in Factorio. What we're going to do today is build what I can only describe as an explosives hub. Now, I've seen in my recent Let's Play that I am using explosives more than I used to do. They are needed for quite a few things, especially with the Spidertron and artillery coming along. Then it makes sense to gather these things up and make a nice, good design. So that's what we've done. Now, each of these episodes you see here starts out as a workshop streamed live on my Twitch channel. This is over at twitch.tv/Nilaus, and you're very welcome to drop by. Usually this takes place on Mondays at 8 PM Central European Time, so feel free to drop by and help design, decide, and discuss upcoming guides. If you want to see more videos like this, then hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content. Ideas can be, of course, shared in the comment section below, or joining the Discord server, or in the live streams on Mondays. Let's dive into the design. Now, what do I mean by explosives and what actually requires explosives? There are a number of things that require explosives in this game, but I'm not going to build all of them. I'm going to take a subset, the subset that I feel that I need in my series, and if there's something else that you want, then you'll feel free to add that as well. There will be some things that I deliberately do not include, but because I don't really find the general use for it. Now let's start by looking at explosives. This is the core of the matter. This is what we want to start from. We want to make sure that we build something. This one is only things that require explosives. So let's have a look at the things we need, or the things that actually required here. So the first thing that I need is cliff explosives. They are so annoying. I mean, not the explosives, but the cliffs. So you really want to get that one first. And if you don't play with cliff explosives, just ignore that part. The second thing that I usually find myself needing is when I get to blue science, I build a tank and I want to use the tank to clear out spiders. I do that with explosive cannon shells, so we need explosive cannon shells. You can of course use other means, but that's where I use it. Now, as the game progresses, I will later on get artillery shells, and therefore I also need artillery shells that's used as explosive cannon shells. So that's the next thing. Now with the addition of the Spidertron, not the Spidertron, the Spidertron, we are actually seeing that rockets are way more useful. Now maybe you liked the rockets before, but you certainly did not need to build thousands upon thousands of those, but you do need that now. So we are going to build some normal rockets, and from my perspective, I really like the explosive rockets because you get more bang for the buck. So those are the 5 items I'm including here. I'm deliberately not including stuff like landmines because I don't use them. So this is the items that we want to focus on in this design. And I'm going to make the design in a logical progression so that you can see how the build expands out from the early game and all the way to the late game. And I'm going to go with this progression. So the first thing you want is cliff explosives, then explosive shells, artillery, and then adding the rockets later on. Like with all my other builds, I'm going to assume that you have resources coming in, and in very many cases you're going to have it from a bus or any structure like that. So we're going to assume that you have resources coming in from a bus. I have prepared it here in advance with some magical loaders that provide enough materials to keep us going. I'm building this at red belt, but you can start it off as yellow belt as you like. I just red belt has such a longevity during the game that I really like building it like this. The first thing we want to do is, of course, build the explosives. Let's not build it too close here, and let's build explosives. And then let's look at how this is done. So it creates 2 explosives every 4 seconds. So 1 every 2 seconds. The amount of materials coming in or being required, 1 coal, 1 sulfur, and 10 water, is very, very low. So it's not going to be stressed out in terms of throughput on the belts. So we just build it like this. Let's get a few more light of these, and I'm going to start putting this one in here. Also making sure that we have power from the side. And to start out with, let's build that one and connect it into our water. So the water is now connected, And I'm going to get this one up. And we're going to get an outbound belt as well. That's going to look like this. And that means we can, at this point, say, I'm going to grab this one inbound and that one outbound. Yeah. These two inbounds and these two outbounds. Let's also make sure that we put lights in here. And now we can copy this as many times as we like. That is 5, 7, and 9. I want to build 9. Why do I want to build 9? Because later on this is a number that we actually can use for something. So this in and of itself is not particularly useful. Let's be honest about this. This is not really helping us, but this is giving us the stuff that we need to build for later on. So let's start expanding it, and the first thing we want to do is making, and I'm going to make it as close as I possibly can. That is probably going to be there. It's probably going to be there. This is going to make our cliff explosives. Now, cliff explosives are kind of a miserable thing. Look at how many explosives it takes. It takes 10 explosives every 8 seconds. So it's basically, yeah, 1 explosive per second. This one is now providing 4.5 per second, all of this. So we have plenty to deal with. The first thing we want to do is I want to make it jump these over. There's a good reason why I want to do this. Because we want to make sure that this is available, the explosives are available further up. So we can start by taking that one in here. And not surprisingly, we are also going to need, yeah, that seems like a good place. There. Oops. Here. So we now have the explosives. We now need to get barrels in on one side and grenades in on one side. So grenades, for example. Well, grenades, they actually, here we go, grenades, iron, and coal. So we get the coal from here. That's good. And we're unfortunately also going to get the iron from that side and then put it back in here. All right, so this one, I have to get some iron inbound. There. We don't need the green circuits just yet, but we'll keep it there because there is a chance we might need it later. And, well, that's pretty good. So we have one thing built. Now the only thing we're missing is empty barrels. So let's do the same thing on the other side, like this. We don't need to have this one. We are going to build this one into empty barrels. And that'll just be put in here and here. And this one will then now need to get some steel on this side. And I'm going to bring steel in here on the other side. Now, it is extremely tempting to say, well, you don't need iron and steel, so just bring those in on one belt. But actually doing it this way prepares things for later. Now, of course, also, we need an output. And if you have it all possible, then make it a logistics one. But if you don't, then you can use a normal belt. But we want this to be made available for the logistics network later on. At this point, you will have oil since you're making sulfur. So maybe it's not a stretch that you're not far away from having logistics chests. But for all intents and purposes, you can do this. And you can constrain it to say how many you want. There. So this is the first step tier of our build. It is of course not very optimal build because there's way too much explosive compared to only getting cliff explosives. But what we've done now is build a cliff explosives build that we can expand. So as I mentioned before, the next natural expansion for me is expanding into expanding into explosive cannon shells. You can see that if you want to make normal cannon shells, instead you can do that. It's just slightly cheaper in terms of explosives, but I prefer the explosive shells because, yeah, they blow up, and who wouldn't want that? So this one requires some steel, plastic, and explosives. This is why we have kept steel, not only for the barrels, but also plastic here as well. Keep that around so we can use it. Now, since I also already hinted that we are going to make some artillery, then I'm going to leave the artillery on this side, and we are going to deal with the right hand side first, which will be here. So we are simply going to do this build. Now we already have all the things we need inbound. Let's take a look at how we want to make explosive shells. Now, how big do you want to make it? Well, as big as you need to. That one, that one, that one. This one will be explosive shells. And let's continue our build here. Look how well it fits. We'll bring the lights on the outside because we always need lights, right? Now this is going to be a bit tricky and it needs some trick to it. So I have 3 inputs. When I have 3 inputs and they're sort of in equal amounts, as they very much are here, I really like to use the second half of this belt as output. So if we look at this one, let's look at this. This is pretty easy. We just take this one. Yep, that's one. You're gonna get that one. The plastic, get that, and then you put it out here. And looks great. Except if I try to do the same thing on the other side, we gotta take inbound. See, I have a thing that I don't like the red ones overlapping, so I always do like this. And then when you want to output it, oh, but there is luckily room for that. I can do this one, and I can put it out here and put that in there. Let's see if that works. Of course it does. We'd like to see this one go. There we go. And it goes out. So now this is a good way for us to use one side of the belt only for that. And we are going to copy this one as well. And I'm going to do that by taking these 2 in here, taking that one. And this one will be like that. And I think that's going to be it. So here, here. Let me just think about this before. Yeah, I want the grabbers opposed to each other and the outputters, haha. There. And that's now done. We can copy this little module and put it up here as well. Now, how many do we need? We can continue to build as many as we like here. But this is for cannon shells and it's later on for artillery shells. So you don't really need a lot. This one, you get one every 8 seconds, which doesn't seem like much. But on the other hand, you really don't need that much, because most of the time you're not out destroying things. You are just waiting for this to stockpile. So just let it stockpile, and then you're going to be happy. When you come back, you will have the 200. I would say they stack to 200. So if you get 400, then you're fine. If you have 600, you are absolutely fine. So this is the second tier of the build. This is where we have now expanded it into explosive shells. And this is sort of your blue science level. At the blue science level, you want the cliff explosives. You have built your oil. And you want to go out and kill biters, probably. Who wouldn't want to do that? Then, and you want your tank to do it. And you want your explosive cells. So this is what it's going to look like for a long time. Now, the way I build, I always get yellow science before I get purple science, because I need yellow science more. And one of the things that I need from yellow science is the artillery cannon. So the artillery cannon will always, for me, come before the production science and the Spidertron. Spidertron is very, very late game because it's very expensive and it requires both production science and utility science, purple and yellow science. This is for this reason I want to expand into artillery before I expand into the rockets, because rockets are only, in my worlds, used for Spidertron. So at this point we now have unlocked our artillery shells and we want to build some artillery. Artillery is quite neat. Artillery is here. It requires quite a lot of electronic, quite a lot of explosives and explosive cannon shells, which again require explosives. So that's a lot. Plus it requires something really annoying, radars, that we have to deal with. And now radars will very much be affected by the way that I design the rest of this build. So it's gonna look really strange, but I need it to be done this way because I want to the final design to be consistent and neat and crisp. Crisp designs are good. So we need to figure out how many of these we can support. If we have if we have, oh, it's very simple. This one is producing 1 every 8 seconds. And this one is 15-second crafting time. Now I'm going to close my eyes and pretend that it says 16 seconds crafting time, because then I can do the calculations more easily. And that means if this was 16 and this was 8, then the result would be I need 2 of these assemblers for 1 of these assemblers, right? So 2 explosives cannon shell assemblers for 1 artillery shell assembler. And, well, you know, let's do that then. I'm going to add 1 more here so that I now have a total of 12. It just didn't want to add it before because having this one not at the end seems illogical. And now from this point we can now do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That made no sense, did it? So these 12 can support these 6. That's great. Let's start using that. And this one will need to be stopping at some point, but we'll keep it running. So first thing we want to do is get some more lights and things in here. There. This is all good. We'll leave this blank for now. So what is it we need? We have this belt going up here. This is great. And this one will simply go up here. Let's just get it up, all the way up, as far up as we can. There. And we're going to get an output belt like that. That's going to be our output belt. Looking good. And what do we need? We need to then grab some things inbound and outbound. Let's start by having this one. You're going to grab things from that way. Looking good. I'm just going to take these out and put them in here. And you also really would like to put that one back out here. And this is where we have the issue. What about the radars? Well, radars are not available. And I need to get radars in here. So we could either make a little requester. You can make a requester from your requesting facility and bring it in if you have logistics robots. But the thing is, if we look at the creation of a radar, it's actually iron and gears and electronic circuits. You know, we kind of have those things here. So I'm going to do this temporarily. And what if we use those 2 locations? One for gears, one for that one. You're grabbing this, you're grabbing there, you're grabbing there. Everyone's going to be happy. And you can now output it on the outside belt. Gonna output it as far down as possible because I need this one to also get it. Got it. We are now making artillery shells. So that's the reason why we left these 2 empty. Why there's 6 here. Now it is a nice structure built, but we're not quite done yet because this is not as easy as it looks, or not as simple as it looks. That one and that one. So this is all good. But we're gonna have issues on like the same place here as well. And I'm gonna do the same solution as we did before by taking that one. That means this one needs to go here, that one needs to go there. Yes, and these are opposite each other, so the grabbers are opposite and the outputters are opposite as well. Now if I just set this one to like this, then it will stop grabbing, and then I can have more up here so we can actually see that it's working. Now the last part here is grabbing stuff outbound. I'm gonna put something very basic here. We are definitely putting this into logistics network here, and I am going to grab there. Now I do it this way. There can be 48 cannon shells in here, and if you just put 1 box, then you have only a stockpile of 48. I like to build this up here at this moment and just build it up to, as you can see, about 200. And that's going to be the build here. One thing to note is that at this point you will rarely, or I am very rarely, as in never, using the cannon shells anymore. So you can, if you really feel like it, just start outputting it again back in there and just go, you know what, it's more valuable to feed into the artillery shells, because from the time you have artillery, you're not going to go out and clear by the nest with the tank. You're going to use it exclusively the artillery, either in manual or in automatic mode. And now we're using a mod called Max Rate Calculator to see the consumption here. This consumption, this might be a bit complicated to look at, but what you can see here is that the most important thing is that it consumes explosives 4.65. So all of this is actually consuming more than what this this explosive build can produce over time. Plus our cliff explosives also want an additional one. So we need to expand our explosive build. Luckily we can do that, and I have left room for it. This is one of the important parts, is that you make sure you leave this room for the expansion. Let's get that one up. And we build it, and then of course the lights, very important. Without lights, nothing works. Technically, yes, it works, but you know, it's gotta look nice, especially when recording for YouTube. So, there. I'm just gonna copy these, and there, and there. And the last one. Well, so now we have doubled our sulfur production. It's going out on both sides as well. And we're up to 9 per second, which is more than enough to feed those two. This is our build, our completed build for artillery, also including the other things that we've done. And the last part we want to build is going to be adding rockets. So you'll find yourself at the late game and you have your Spidertron, or you're about to research the Spidertron and realize that the Spidertron is going to fire a rocket per second, and that is going to take an awful lot of rocket, like thousands of rockets. Yeah, so you need a dedicated build for the rockets. Before going into the final build, I'd just like to take a moment to thank all the Patreon supporters who are supporting the channel and what I do here. The patronage on Patreon is what makes it possible for me to continue to do this every day. And I'm really thankful that so many people are choosing to support. So if you want to support the channel and the work I do here, then heading on over to Patreon, that is the best way to support the channel, and I really appreciate it for everyone. Now, I should mention that, of course, there's no obligation. Everything I do here is completely available for everyone, but I do really appreciate the people who choose to support. Thank you very much. The first thing we want to do is just pause this one just for a bit, because we don't actually want this one here. We'll reestablish it later on, but for now we need the space to build. So let's get this out of the way. Now rockets, let's have a look at design perspective on rockets. If we look at the explosive rockets, they take 8 seconds and require 1 rocket. One rocket takes 8 seconds and requires 1 explosive, 1 electronic, and 2 iron plates. So the way that I actually like to build this is kind of similar to these ones with the inputs and outputs, because we have 3 inbounds and they are all low quantities, so we can use 1.5 belt and then use the last half of the belt for output. I can also make these direct insertion, so that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's start making it and try to make it in a logical way here. Let's say to there. That should be the design. We built these two, and we built these two. All right, and we start with lights as well, or the power bolts as well. There we go. This is now where we start branching the other side, and it's going to do the same as the previous one. And look at that! Lo and behold, this fits exactly with going up here. Very nice. I like this. So we're going to grab some things in here, grab some things in there, grab here, grab here. Now these are happy and have everything you want. We're going to do direct insertion since they are working at a 1-to-1 ratio. And the only thing you need is grabbing some things inbound. Let's build that here, here. And that one also needs, so it needs, yeah. So now we need, again, the outbound method. I'm going to do it like this again. And input and input. So this is, again, we've used this now several times, both for the explosive shells, for the artillery, and now again for the rocket. And that's actually just going to be the unit. How many are we going to build of this? Well, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's about as much as we can support it with. And at this point, we are going to build the requester. That one you are going to include here. And my recommendation is just leave it open. This will give you a total of 9,600 rockets. I think that's correct. Don't skimp on this. I mean, you can, if you feel like it, just do like this and then say, all right, I only want 4,000. But yeah, you need a lot. Now I'm going to twist this one because then I can take my, whoops, not, nope, my green and iron that we are still missing here, and then wrap it back. This point. And none of this is going to be constrained. What we can look at is the consumption up here. This is the consumption. It uses 8.6. Nope, we have to be more exact. I have to also include the cliff explosives, and then you can see now it uses 8.962 explosives per second, and we are producing in our production here 9.0. So there is a, I would call that a perfect balance between the production here and the total consumption. Now it's unlikely that you will have cliff explosives running all the time, but you might also be in a point where you want to upgrade these to yellow assemblers at some point. However, you can see here, now we are extremely ready for the late game war on the biters. We have tons of rockets being built, so the Spidertron can run around going crazy. We have our perimeter defense in the form of explosives right here. And should we want to expand, we also have quite easy way to expand with cliff explosives readily available in this case, a logistics chest. This build, it comes in 2 forms. I have split it into sort of a starter build and a late game build. Basically all of the explosives, the cliff explosive and the explosive cannon shells are in the first tier of the blueprint, and you can find my blueprint linked in the description below. So you can use them yourself, and then an upgrade to the full size here. And if you feel that there's something missing, well, let me know. And there are some things that I just choose not to do because I don't want this to be overly complicated. The main point of this is producing the items that you need. Artillery needs in high quantity, and rockets also need in very, very high quantities. So keep it flowing, keep it happy. This one, we are just looking at that. It's actually only using 4.5 sulfur per second. So it's not actually an overwhelming sulfur demand we have here. So that's the 2 builds. I hope that you are enjoying it. If you are still watching this video, then I can only assume that either you've fallen asleep or you have enjoyed yourself. So how about hitting the like button? Check your subscription status. If you're not subscribed, then consider subscribing if you feel that I have earned it with my Factorio masterclasses or Let's Plays. And of course, if you want to be part of the design process or provide feedback on upcoming designs, then I am streaming over on Twitch TV. I'm streaming Let's Plays on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, and I'm streaming workshop sessions on Mondays, and you're very welcome to drop by. The address is twitch.tv/Nilaus. And you're also welcome to join our Discord, where there's lots of Factorio discussions and other gaming related discussions. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you've maybe learned a thing or two and you can see this being applicable in your own base. Thank you for watching. And as always, stay effective.